reminder that I'm recording, and I've gone live on YouTube. I'm just going to go grab the link and put it in the Capstone Materials chat channel. Okay, that's that. Hopefully that's all connected up. Well, welcome back to 497. Let me get mini-me back. There we go. So this is the aim for today was to get the video pictures done, and unfortunately I haven't got everybody's, but I've managed to get 6, I think, out of the 10. And what we might do is see about doing the remaining ones next week. That's okay. It should be all right. So that's where we are. Actually, it's not. We should be down one. I forgot to update this page. We're on the 26th, right? So we're on week 5, including the President's Day holiday break. And so we've done the project relevance statement, and that's the aim of that is to just make it a very short explanation of what you want to build. And if you like, you could think about it as a mission statement. Sometimes, depending on the business, it might be a values statement. Could call it a vision statement sometimes, but relatively high level. What we're going to do today is listen to people's video pictures and see if anybody has any questions for them about their pictures. And we're going to, once we've done with that, we need to get a bit more specific about the ideas, right? And the first thing we're going to do as groups is put those ideas, make those ideas specific about the projects that move forward. But I want to talk today, after we've seen the video pictures, about what that means. What does it mean to make something more specific? And in the engineering world, the systems engineering world, being more specific means writing down requirements. And there's various ways you can do that. I have a way, and I'm using it as a way to also help with figuring out which projects move forward. Right? We've got 10 people in the class, and 10 ideas. Some of them are similar to each other, similar topic areas maybe. Some of them are very different, but there are common threads. And one of the things we need to do over the next 3 or 4 weeks is to do a down select to move from 10 ideas to 3, 4 ideas. 2 is probably too few. 2 would mean 2 groups of 5, which is a relatively large project group for Capstone. But I think Professor Broderick says that the ideal size for a Capstone team is pi. Right? Since we can't slice people up into 0.1415926, that means that it's an average, and so somewhere around 3 or 4 people per team. The last cohort of Capstone students that I took through, we had 6 teams of 3, and all 6 of those teams worked very well together as teams. Forget about what they produced. the teams worked well together. What tends to happen with smaller teams, groups of 2 or even 1, is you don't have enough backup to get things done in a timely manner, so you tend to maybe burn out a little bit. What tends to happen in larger groups, 4 or 5, is you tend to get 1 or 2 people in some ways ostracized, cut out of what the group is doing. And again, that's not good either, at least not from a pedagogical viewpoint. And the teaching viewpoint is the one that I'm most interested in. Sorry, what's that? What's possible but not ethical? Anthony? Sorry. I don't know what happened there. Did I... It looked like I was in the wrong group. Sorry about that. Okay. So anyway, that's a bit more. And I showed you this last week. We're still in this top left-hand quadrant of how things are working. So the idea is to reduce the uncertainty as we move forward, and that's why we need to talk about the ideas and write down the ideas in more specificity as we move forward, so that everybody has a clear idea of what we're trying to achieve. I said this last week. I hope somebody's had a look at the Discord server. William Karen, my main contact there, I think I taught him 236. He's a mech eng, I think. He's said if anybody's interested, get involved. But we'll have to see how that works in, and whether we can do what you want and do what they want. So we'll see. I talked about how I'm going to look at the pitch, and the thing that I want you're going to have to do today is potentially answer questions about your pitch. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about any of that before I move on?
I just wanted to comment that my comment on the YouTube video or your live stream was about 3.14 idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay, sorry, I didn't make the connection. I only saw the comment a little bit after I'd made it. So yes, I agree in that case. Okay. What do I want to do first? So I'll do the where's it gone? There we go. I'll do the pictures that I've had as video files first, and then I'll do the ones on YouTube. I've just set them up a little differently. I can't figure out how to stream the YouTube ones nicely within the software I'm using to project myself. So first up is this is an idea from Kyle Bechtold, and let me figure out how to make me go away.
Hi, I'm Kyle Bechtold, and today I want to talk to you about security. In today's digital world, securing our data and activity is critically important. Threat actors are always looking for vulnerabilities that can be exploited to gain access to a system. The goal of any organization is to ensure best security practices are implemented in order to reduce the likelihood of falling victim to such an attack. My idea for a project in relation to cybersecurity is to design a honeypot that emulates a USB flash drive. A honeypot is a decoy system that looks like a legitimate, vulnerable target in order to fool threat actors into hacking into it. I suppose the reason why it's called a honeypot is because it's so sweet. It's such a sweet target that they can't resist but going after it. Once they are into this decoy system, their activity and any viruses or malware that they upload can be tracked in order to understand how to make the real systems more secure. Some malware is specifically designed to spread via USB flash drives. The goal of my project is to design a honeypot that will emulate a USB flash drive so that it's a prime target for this type of malware. When this emulated USB drive is targeted, I will then be able to analyze the malware and the activity in that system for more information. I only know of one other device that exists like this. I could only find one when I was doing some research, but that device is kind of outdated. It hasn't been updated for newer machines that we have now. So my next goal will be to do more research to see if there are any other similar projects to this, and if there are, how can I make sure that mine will stand out, or perhaps do a little bit more than these other ones. My target audience for this device would be really any singular person or organization that wants to protect against specifically USB drive infections, stuff like that. Whether that's for actual practical security purposes or just research-based applications to, get a better understanding of this whole idea. So thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry, let me... Thank you, Kyle. Does anybody have any questions for Kyle? So, Kyle, I'm a little confused. So, for me, a USB drive is the actual thumb drive. Are you talking about making a device that a thumb drive would plug into and pretend to be a target system? Is that the aim?
Well, I had discovered another project that basically it used a virtual drive. Like it was coded so that it would look, you could just have this software sitting on your system and it emulates the look of a USB drive. So like for malware that propagates itself via USB drives, it looks like that is that this software, that this code that you've written, it looks like it is a USB drive. It was kind of confusing to me, but it seems like it's something that I could do, just like make a virtual drive like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's plausible.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Does anybody else have any question for Kyle?
So it's basically just a bait and switch then kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. It's an emulated drive, so then once they go into it, it's like, gotcha, basically like that.
Yeah, and sometimes you want to pretend a little longer to get more information out of them.
Right, for sure, yeah.
Right. Okay, thanks, Carl. I'm going to move on to Bright, and let me just check that all my audio settings are correct. I have, yeah, sorry. I just want to check all the others so I don't forget about it later on. Okay, they're all right. So, so this is Bright's pitch. Ah, sorry, I didn't check the.
Hi,
Let me just.
have you ever wanted to build your own robot but don't want to spend thousands of dollars or a lot of years working and studying and researching on it? Yeah, that's a hassle I don't want to go through either. But there's a way you can do that without going through all the hassle. Yes, you can build your own robot powered by a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, I didn't know that either. I'm sure you'll be asking what is a Raspberry Pi. So a Raspberry Pi is a board, it's a small computer board that can easily connect to the internet and interface with a lot of hardware components. The Raspberry Pi is very small. It's a small board that has the size of a credit card, which makes it perfect for embedding it into a robot. You don't need to find extra space in the robot to put it in. And guess what? It's cheap. It's less than $40. Don't underestimate the size of a Raspberry Pi. It's very powerful. It's as powerful as a smartphone. And it has a lot of inputs and outputs. Yeah, you can easily connect it to actuators and sensors. There's a lot of products out there that you can connect to Raspberry Pi to make your robot very intelligent. Like screens and cameras, there's a lot of products. You can use image processing tools and nice user interface to make your robot really intelligent. And the most important thing is everybody can use a Raspberry Pi board. You just need to download the operating system, write it on your micro card, SD card, connect to your Raspberry Pi screen, and there you go. You don't need no programming knowledge to do that. So my target audience for this project is people who want to build their own robots without going through a lot of hassle. People who don't have a lot of thousands of dollars to spend building a robot, or don't want to go through a lot of research, spending years studying on how to do that. So I'm about to do this. Once this goes right, I'm gonna let you all know. So wish me good luck. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Bright?
Yeah, the Raspberry Pi small device, it comes with the code written on it, or when you buy, you have to upload the code for any project you intended to, any project you want to build.
Yeah, so for the Raspberry Pi, some of them come with the codes, but some of them don't really come with the codes. So you have to download the codes and then upload it to it.
Thanks.
Okay. So what are you aiming for the robot to do, Bright?
So it depends. I mean, me specifically, I just want a robot that can help me around the house. You know, like like have a camera on it. do a lot of stuff, but other people will have reasons why they want to build a robot. So with a Raspberry Pi, I mean, you can do anything, build any kind of robot that you want with it.
Okay, so we need to get a bit more specific, but I take the point, and that's going to be the next steps, right? To say things like cost and size and functionality is where we need to get to eventually. Okay, thanks, Bright. I'm going to move on to Fahim's presentation. Let's try that.
Hello, my project of interest is smart sensors for parking. Parking has never been important to the world like it is today. Research indicates that more than 1 million barrels of oil consumed every day in the search for parking spaces. More than 44% of drivers find parking stressful experience, and the average driver spends 4 days every year looking for space to park. These sensors are directly responsible for significantly cutting down on the time that drivers spend searching for parking spots. The sensors communicate in real time with parking routing information system to guide drivers to available parking spaces. I choose smart sensors because smart parking sensors reducing stress while searching for parking space. Less fuel is wasted, save money, save time. Smart parking sensors can reduce traffic by making it easier to locate empty parking spaces, lowering the risk of distracted driving. Smart parking sensors technology can help drivers to locate spots. The target are all drivers. My next step is to research on different types of sensors and their components, as well as the connection between apps and sensors through a real time. Thank you.
Okay, that was pretty interesting. So does anybody have any questions for Fahim?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how would you plan on like deploying this idea? Would there be sensors in each parking spot? Would there be like a gate you go through with a display of what spots are available and which are not available?
That's what I'm planning to design the system, which will install small sensors in front each space in the parking lot, and each row level. And the front interest will be the smart information system that will display how many empty space in each level row is empty. So before you enter the parking lot, you know how many empty space in each parking level row.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So my question was I think from what you said earlier, Fahim, I was thinking it was a system around a parking garage, but the pitch sounded much bigger than that in terms of maybe citywide even. But I think the scale, for at least for a capstone, I think is the parking garage idea is better. I think, just a comment, I think you'll find there are a few of these systems around. I've certainly seen a couple myself, and the main issue you're going to come across is the either the cost to install or the cost to retrofit onto an existing system. So that should be part of your requirements, as we'll talk about later. Thank you. Anybody else got any questions or comments for Fahim?
So how do you think the drivers will be able to know where to find their spots? Is it like a phone app or something?
I'm thinking about that. That's the future interest. Right now, it's like it's gonna be a screen, like they call a smart sensor information, will be in front the interest of the parking lot, and that will let you know before you enter how many empty space in each level. So you know before you enter the parking lot what level you should go to where it has more empty space. But my interest in the future, it could be through the app before you reach your destination. Your destination. You know what parking lot you go into park, like in New York and New Jersey. You could, that's in the future. You could put in the app and tell you before you reach it, is any empty space in the parking lot or not. Cool. But this for the future, like for the student to discuss and see how is that gonna work or not, right, and how much it's gonna cost. And
yeah, I'm just thinking about that. It is interesting. Like the thing I would throw at you is what happens when we have more autonomous vehicles around, right? You've still got to park them, but then do you that means you then need to talk to an autonomous vehicle rather than necessarily talking to a driver, which is probably a different set of problems. No, I think it's a cool project. Okay, thank you. Next up on the video list, I have Michael Gallagher's presentation. I hope the orientation and everything's right. I actually didn't check.
Hi, have you ever worked with a Raspberry Pi? Well, if you do not know what they are miniature computers basically that can be programmed to do whatever you want. And obviously, if you know about Raspberry Pis, you're very versed in technology, and you know how the world works today with network security and networks and how important they are to keep safe. Well, my project statement here is to utilize a Raspberry Pi, to detect network intrusions, and make this little fun to actually give the people who are trying to attack the network, who actually fall prey to the honeypot, little funny messages. If they, it's kind of a mean thing to do in a sense, but if say someone attacks you or attacks the honeypot, which is kind of like, it's kind of like it's like you're almost like you're asking for them to attack you, basically, and once they do, you can kind of send them like a little quip or a funny joke or something. Obviously, this is all for education purposes only, but you can send like a funny quip, anything like that. Like, oh, you've been got. Like, you just attacked a honeypot or something, or you just send them something like funny related to honey, like a bear. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think in order to utilize the honeypot in order to catch network intrusions and maybe stop in future cases, stop network intrusions in future cases. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Does anybody have any questions for Michael? So, the one thing I'll say about some of the stuff we've been talking about is you let me put that back on, maybe. There we go. Is that oftentimes you want to separate the technology that you're going to use, a Raspberry Pi, from the problem you're trying to solve. Because sometimes you've got to solve the problem a different way once you've expressed in more detail what the problem is. For example, one of the groups last semester had decided really early on that they were going to use the was it Raspberry Pi W0, one of the really tiny Raspberry Pis, and they hadn't done enough requirement solicitation and analysis. And what they found when they started trying to build their system around that small Raspberry Pi was it didn't have enough I/O. Raspberry Pis certainly have I/O, but in their particular case, they didn't have enough inputs and outputs that in order to do what they needed to do. So they had to move to I think they moved to a Raspberry Pi 3 after that, which is much bigger form factor than the credit card sized Raspberry Pi Zero. Michael, I like the idea of sending cryptic messages back to the hacker. I think that's a good thing to do. It's innocuous, and the thing I'd wonder about is what else do you want to do, right? The whole reporting or alarming or figuring out, tracking, logging. That's the stuff that I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear more about as you develop the idea.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna include that, but kind of slipped my mind.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, all of these projects have pretty big ideas, right? And trying to cram it into 2 or 3 minutes of video is hard. But the aim is to not get too detailed too quickly, because if you get too detailed too quickly, you tend to get bogged down. Whereas the aim is to gradually reduce the uncertainty about what you're trying to build, and hopefully take on different ideas or different approaches as you move forward, because that tends to the continual refinement tends to get you a better thing to target than maybe you would otherwise. Okay, they're the 4 videos I had, and I have to use the browser here for Eric's and for Kyle Fields. So let me. I think the audio will come through, but let me know quickly if it doesn't.
No matter where you live, in a city or a peaceful town, everyone needs to feel secure in the place they call home.
We can't see it.
You see on the news
You
all the
can't
time,
see it?
break-ins here.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay.
Audio's good, but we can't see.
The audio's good? Okay, yeah, sorry. I forgot to swap my my standard one. There we go. That might be better. Let me start from the beginning again. That better?
No matter where you live,
Yep.
in a city or a peaceful town, everyone needs to feel secure in the place they call home. You see on the news all the time, break-ins here, robberies there. People can't even trust their packages sitting outside without worrying about someone stealing it. Yes, you can go out and buy a top-of-the-line home security system, and you can monitor everywhere on your property. However, most of us either can't afford or don't want to pay $100 for a doorbell, and to add on to it, pay for subscription in order to actually use the product for what it's used for. What if there was a way to save money and feel secure in your own home just by opening an app? Here I'm proposing a smart home security system containing indoor and outdoor cameras, a doorbell, and possibly more aspects of security down the line. The devices will be controlled via a smartphone app, which will be free to download and use at any time. The thing about most common smart home security companies is that they advertise all of these fancy features about their products, such as cooperating with Alexa, colored night vision, and enhanced Wi-Fi, when in reality, people just want to feel safe with high-quality products, which is why my products will only be used strictly for their direct purpose, monitoring. There will be a base model and a series of features that can be added onto it. However, they are far from necessary. Add-on features will be further developed in the future. The target audience for this product is anyone who would like to provide smart home security to their own home while being on a budget. Someone who is simply looking for a way to monitor their home via a smartphone without all of those unnecessary features. I came up with this idea shortly after COVID began to take a toll on the world. Being forced into online classes meant that I will not be able to utilize my knowledge of computer engineering in a hands-on form. So I began to look around my house with intentions of creating something simply for fun. Down the line, car break-ins began to happen all around my side of town, which truly struck myself and my family, as we think we live in a pretty peaceful area. This concept could assist my family in this issue and anyone else who may be affected by home break-ins or robberies. The next step is to begin the development process, along with coming up with more additional features for people who would be interested in spending a little more money on the product. With your approval, this idea can be put into action shortly, and people will have the option to provide smart home security to their own home without breaking the bank.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Does anybody have any questions for Eric? So, Eric, you mentioned $100 plus subscription. Do you have a target price range in mind for what you're trying to achieve?
I don't really think subscription is necessary for something like that. I mean, unless there's like a really good reason why they do use subscriptions, I think it's a little ridiculous to spend $100 a month on a doorbell subscription.
I tend to agree. And what you mentioned two things which I think are a little different. One of them was car break-ins, and the other one was securing your house. Where do you see what to focus the first attempt at this product?
You mean like why I compared the two?
Yeah, well, I mean, is the thing we're going to build in Capstone going to target protecting a car, or is it going to target protecting a house?
Well, the way my house is laid out, I guess I should have thought of this. Like, I park right in front of the garage, which is our main entrance into the house. That's kind of why we think of it as a little more important, because you walk by our cars to get into the house. So
Right.
if someone is breaking into a car, they're only 20 feet away from getting into the house.
Right. Yeah.
So
No.
that's why I compared the two. I should have thought about that.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I'm just where I live as well. There's been an uptick in the number of car break-ins, and it is a bit concerning. And I wondered whether that might be a nice place to focus initially, because it sort of solves your problem as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned things being modular, right? So it's not stopping you doing the house as well. It's just you've got to choose a place to start, and
Exactly.
maybe starting with the car might be a good idea. But okay, thank you. Anybody else got any questions for Eric? Okay. If not, I might just bookmark that so I know where I am. And the next one is Kyle Fields. So let's put Kyle on the screen. Where are we? There we are. Turn mini-me off.
Have an enthusiasm for rally racing. You have a vehicle, you have a co-driver and a driver, and you're on a tight budget. A lot of times what that means is you need to slowly build up, you need to find the cheapest while still being safe components, and a lot of times you have to go without some things, right? However, there are some necessities that become very expensive, no matter which way you put it. One of the biggest ones is technology. When you're talking about things such as intercoms and other forms of technology, such as what this is about, your co-driver technology, it gets expensive. Intercoms easily go for hundreds of dollars. There's no way around that. That's just the way it is. Once you're done, you're talking $300 or $400. You've already put a lot of money into this vehicle. After that, you have your co-driver, right? He needs some way to diagnose the vehicle. A popular way I've seen is by attaching a tablet inside the vehicle so that the co-driver can easily access this information from inside the vehicle. That's all well and good, except now there's no way to get it outside of the vehicle. What I'm proposing is a way for the data that the co-driver receives to be sent from inside the vehicle to outside with, at most, maybe one press of a button, right, on the tablet. My plan is for the data that you have to be transmitted to another external device, say a laptop, desktop, anything external, and use that information to analyze racing performance, see if the vehicle's running rich or lean. Maybe you're having some kind of acceleration problems that you can't necessarily see on a small screen like a tablet, but you can see easier on a desktop. If you want to show this information to outside sources, maybe a tuner, maybe someone with experience, or maybe even just your team, however many people that may be, but they need that information. Sending it from the interior tablet is not always a great way to go about it. Sometimes a lot of these OBD2 applications, they don't have an easy way to send that information out. So, what I'm proposing is a way to do that. That's not only effective, but inexpensive. There are ways of doing it outside of this that are very expensive, but the way that I am proposing is inexpensive, very low maintenance, and requires a low amount of moving parts in terms of networking.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Kyle? So, Kyle, getting the data off. So you want to get the data out of the car and to the pits or somewhere else. Is that the idea?
Right. Yep. So if like after an event or something, you can take that information and analyze it on like either a bigger screen or something that you have more customizable options with.
Okay. So I was thinking you were trying to do it close to real time, but the aim is to do it as a post-mortem of a race, or is that right?
Yep. Yeah, because in rally racing there's no pits. It's kind of
okay.
You're there and then you're not there. You're either racing or you're in your box trying to fix things.
Yep. Okay. No, I like the idea. I haven't played with cars in a long time, but I used to love playing with cars. Okay, I never did any rally driving. I did. I was in various car clubs, and we used to do. They were called rallies, but they were more like scavenger hunts. They're kind of fun. Okay. Anybody else got any questions for Kyle? No? Okay. Let me just check. So we're missing a few. Where's Discord gone? We're missing a few presentations. One thing I've said is that it's possible for people to do them live. I don't know whether anybody who hasn't presented yet wants to do that. Michael, I can't recall.
Yeah, it's on your Discord.
Yeah, sorry. Let me. I forgot about. I think I ignored yours. I apologise. Let me. Oh no, it's not in. I thought did you send me something? I can't remember.
Yeah, I sent it through your inbox on Discord.
On Discord. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me. Sorry, I should have remembered. Yeah. Let me pull that up. Sorry, and we'll show that one as well. There we go. Okay, let me just get set up with the screen and everything. That's that. Make mini-me go away and put that on full screen. And this is Michael Federick's presentation.
I would like to pitch an idea to you. Imagine this. You just purchased a new security system, and it's amazing. It comes with indoor and outdoor cameras, plus window and door sensors. You go to install it, and everything's perfect. Now weeks go by, and you finally get an alert on your phone. Motion is detected. You open the app to see what's the issue. You see nothing. Next day come along, and you notice it snowed, so you go into the shed, but you notice your snowblower's been stolen. Now you're thinking, how did this happen? Well, there was a blind spot. Your camera was unable to cover that area. Now,
sorry.
Check this out. I want to design a solar-powered drone that acts as a camera and is mobile. Yes, that is correct. Able to detach from its location and fly around. Now the plan is to create a drone that operates with solar batteries and attached to a camera. The control system will work off of a Raspberry Pi. In addition, the drone will mount as a regular camera, and right next to it, there will be a solar panel. I came up with this idea because I personally have gone through a similar incident where my camera had a blind spot around it and something of mine was stolen. My main target audience are homeowners who want their home and other property to be secure. Now, I'm not saying the security system you own does not provide security. All I'm suggesting is that it would be in your best interest to have additional security. Now, the next step is the longest step. I have to do extensive research on my project. It will probably be in my best interest to create a blueprint. Now, a few examples of the research that I have to conduct are budget costs, hardware and software specifications, and a few more. I want my project to be very efficient. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to convey this project idea. I hope that it will be considered.
Okay, very good. Yeah, apologies for missing that, Michael. I was just looking at stuff in Blackboard. So, does anybody have any questions for?
The last
sorry.
couple of weeks, I have been.
Let's kill that. Does anybody have any questions for Michael?
So is this drone actually flying, or is it like a ground-based drone?
So, yeah, so it flies. So it mounts up as a camera, but then you're able to fly it around.
That's sick.
Yeah, I think it's an ambitious idea, but I think it's a good idea. We're talking about requirements. There's and I think I talked to you about it directly, Michael. But the things you need to specify are things like weight and time aloft and think about how whether you want to get video or do you want to get still images, and that sort of thing. And then where do you want to send that information? Can the drone send it back, or does it need to get back to its base station in order to download the video? Lots of questions I have, but that just means it's a pretty big project. So and that you can only get a certain amount of information into a 2 or 3 minute video. Anybody else have any questions for Michael?
So my question is it gonna activate itself like when it finds something, or you're gonna have to be conscious? And how is it gonna work?
I can't understand you.
I'm saying, is the drone gonna activate itself once it detects something, like fly around once it detects something, or you have to be controlling it yourself all the time?
Oh yeah, so once the drone detects something, it would alert your phone, and then you would be able to then unmount it, and then control it through like an app or something through the phone.
Okay, but the initial detection would be the drone would be working by itself, yeah?
Yeah. So it would function by itself, yeah.
Okay.
Until after it is detected something.
Right, and then it'd alert you, and then you could do something about it directly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. So I know I had communications with most everyone else. So what I'll do is I'll leave the video pictures there for this week. For those who haven't done it, if you can get those done, and I think there's 3 people still need to present, and if we can get those, I'll run through those pictures next week, so we can have everybody present. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay. So, well, we haven't quite finished them, but the next thing I want to work towards, and we're still going to be working individually, even though this is the eventual deliverable is a proposal, which will be a team effort. But I want to talk a little bit about the next steps, right? The next steps are to try and move from these ideas we've got to something that's more concrete, and that's something that's a bit easier for an engineering organization to develop. Okay, and so any engineering organization that I've been involved in has a process of some description, and it starts out with lots and lots of great ideas, and then some of those ideas are developed a bit further, not all of them. If it's in a company, those ideas are usually ranked by potential profit or potential outcome, potential impact on the business, and the trouble is with ideas, there's lots of them, and you can't do all of them because you just don't have the resources usually to execute on all of them. So then you've got to make a decision, and the only way you can make a decision about engineering product style things is looking at what it's going to do, some ways how you think it's going to do it, and what the benefits are and what the costs are. Right? So one parameter in our decision making as far as which projects go forward is going to be cost benefit. It's not the only thing, because we are not a product development organization. We're a learning institution, a teaching and learning institution. So another parameter is making sure everybody learns something out of it. And I think we also need to have a bit of fun, right? It's got to be interesting. And believe me, even if you think your project is the most interesting thing on earth right now, by November, you may rethink that. Because once we've locked in the projects, sometimes things get hard. And that's just the way things are, right? And you've got to show some resolve, determination in order to move through. And there will be setbacks. An example of a setback, right? One thing I always advise all student teams to do now is, when you're developing on a Raspberry Pi, don't just get one. Get at least two, because you will blow one up, right? And normally the time when hardware goes wrong is the week before your final presentation. It will have worked flawlessly up until you have to show someone else, and then when you show someone else, it's not there. For whatever reason, and there's various reasons that hardware stops working. So be careful with that. But I'll continue to remind you, we're not there yet. Right. So the project proposal, which is what each team is going to eventually put together. Like I said, we haven't done the teams yet, but we need to flesh out all of these ideas a little bit more before we can think about doing a selection. And the things we have now, you should have the idea, and we've heard 7 of them just now. You should have an idea of the target audience or the market. And now we need to think about the financial feasibility. Is doing what you're doing going to take a $10,000 piece of equipment, or is it going to take a $30 Raspberry Pi? Right? There's one of the not last cohort, but the cohort before that, they needed a $2,000 infrared camera in order for their system to work. Luckily enough, one of the members of that team worked for a security company, and he was able to get the company he worked for to loan the team a $2,000 infrared camera. And it actually worked out really well, because the company was interested in making sure that he understood the workings of the camera, and him understanding the workings of the camera was a good thing for the project. So it all worked out pretty well. The next thing is it technically feasible, right? Is what you're proposing, and we need to nail that down a little bit more first as well, but is what you're proposing technically feasible? Is it possible, physically possible, to have a drone that can fly autonomously for 20 minutes and stream back 4K video to wherever? It is, but 3 or 4 years ago it might not have been. Right? So we've got to figure out where in the feasibility stakes everything is. And then the last piece is what I've called requirements. And these are writing down the specifications of the thing you need to build. And I actually dislike the second term here. A functional requirement is, funnily enough, the functions of how the system does something. What does it do? Right? And then normally people talk about non-functional requirements, but I dislike the term non-functional, because if something is non-functional for me, it's broken. Right? So I often change. Now, a former student of mine came up with the idea of cross-functional requirements. And cross-functional, non-functional requirements tell you something about how well does your system work. How much power does it need? How much does it weigh? How big is it? What color is it? Those sorts of things. And whereas the functional requirements you may have a performance requirement in your cross-functional requirements that relates to a function of the system, but the actual, the drone has to detect an intrusion within 3 minutes of the intrusion occurring, right? That 3-minute number is a cross-functional number. So financial feasibility, and I'll get you to do this at a really high level for each of them once you get to the teams, but I'll need to go into it in a bit more detail. We'll do that later in the semester. But things you need to think about is how much will it cost to make, and we're not going to be selling it, but you might want to think about what's it going to sell for. How many? What's the market size? How many can we sell? What are the tangible benefits of the project? Apart from profit, dollars are a tangible benefit. What else does the project do for us? And sometimes there's intangible benefits. I think possibly learning a new skill or learning about a new subject area is possibly an intangible benefit. Still worthwhile doing, it's not quantifiable in terms of dollars and cents, which is most tangible benefits are. And then usually you need a figure of merit, and cash flow over time is usually used to do that, and usually you come up with either a return on investment or an internal rate of return. Sometimes the break-even time is enough, but it's a financial analysis. And this is just a quick example where the top rows here are about the increased sales, reduction in customer complaint calls, reduced inventory costs. So they're the benefits. And then here we've got the development costs, which is how much does it take to do it from scratch. And here we've got the operational costs. We want to keep it going, so how much does it cost to keep going? That's why the development costs only happen in the first year of operation, whereas the operational costs continue. And then the figures of merit that they have, there's a return on investment of 24%, which is pretty good. There's a break-even point of 3.63 years. This is a pretty big project. And then the net present value is another figure that sometimes people use. So given all the costs, given all the potential profits, and we discount those numbers back to today's dollars, what's it worth? And in this particular example, the project is worth $629,000. So it's going to be, that means we're going to make money out of it if all of these forecasts are correct. And I'm going to go through an example of this with you later on. And then technical feasibility. Is it physically possible? Does the technology exist already? Do we have the skills to do it? Can we do it fast enough? Well enough? Are there any ethics concerns? Certainly the security projects suggested may have ethical concerns. Probably minor ones, but anytime there's something that deals with security or life safety or any rules and regulations, you've got to think about what the ethical concerns are. And then the last thing there is, are the requirements stable? Have we made up our minds on what we're going to build? Right? Sometimes things change, particularly in companies. Sometimes things change on a daily basis. And that's what I said earlier about what a requirement is. The thing with ideas is you can speak them really easily. It's very easy to just talk about ideas. But in order to move things forward from a product development viewpoint, from a project development viewpoint, you've got to write what you want to do down in very specific language. You don't want any vagueness or ambiguity. Because as soon as you've got vagueness and ambiguity, that makes it hard to actually do from an engineering viewpoint. And here's two examples of a functional and a cross-functional requirement. Text messages shall be sent to anyone with a mobile phone. Okay, that's a functional requirement. It's a function of the system. It's what the system does. And then the cross-functional one is text messages shall arrive within 0.5 seconds, so half a second. And that's a performance requirement. And the cross-functional requirements are often done as, what do you call it? They're often, they're called ilities. Reliability, dependability, security. They touch not just a particular part of the system, but they generally impact on the system as a whole rather than individual pieces of it. The other thing I've written here is, and I've underlined, is the word shall. I'm very particular in the way I write requirements. If a requirement is a requirement, it has the word shall in the statement. If it doesn't have the word shall in the statement, it's not a requirement. Some people use must, should, can. I don't. The verb that has to be in a requirement is the verb shall. Some people use will. Again, I don't. The word is shall. And part of the reason for that is there's an organization called INCOSE. I think it's the International Council on Systems Engineering. And systems engineering in this sense is the, you might also call it requirements engineering. It's about managing requirements and application of requirements to product. And they tend to prefer to have shall statements as requirements. Another reason is must and will are pretty strong, right? They're as strong as shall. So you could use them. I don't. Should and can are both, from a requirements viewpoint, what I call weasel words. It should, but it doesn't. It can, but it doesn't. Right? So anytime I see those words, I immediately drop them. If somebody says the system should be blue, I immediately drop that as a potential requirement. And people get upset with that. And so the reason I drop any sentence that has weasel words in them, should, can, could, may, is because if somebody, one of the stakeholders, one of the people interested in the success of the product, if one of the stakeholders gets upset by dropping those requirements or those things that they've suggested, then you can have the conversation, right? And if it's important enough, that will turn that requirement into a shall statement. And it's normally the person doing this is not the CEO or the CTO or the boss, right? So it can be a difficult thing to do, but it's worthwhile provoking the conversation, not in an aggressive way, but it's worthwhile having the conversation. And a way to generate that conversation is by doing what I'm suggesting. So one thing I want you to do for next week is to write down, and I don't think I've put it up in Blackboard yet, so maybe 10 functional, 5 to 10 functional requirements, and maybe 3 to 6 cross-functional requirements for what you're aiming to do. This isn't aimed at necessarily being graded. It's aimed at expressing the functions and having a conversation amongst the 10 students about what projects are going to go forward. And it may be that one of the ideas we've heard today, even if it's a really good idea, doesn't go forward. But that person has some particular thing they want to do, and after a conversation around the shall statements with somebody else, we've found a way to scratch that itch as well as do somebody else's project. Okay? So I don't think I've put that up in Blackboard yet, but I do want you to, I'll just put in a couple of questions. One wanting functional shall statements, and I've got some examples shortly that just for everybody, so you can see what I mean. And we'll talk about them next week. So one thing I like using for this part of a project are use case diagrams. I think they capture at a really high level interesting information about the project. And this is my tinfoil hat messenger application, right? So the four components in a use case diagram are these stick figures, and they're called actors. There's this box which is called the scope or the subject boundary. There are these ellipses, and an ellipse has a label on it which has to have a verb in it. And here we've got the verb send and the verb respond in the two ellipses. These are functional, they're called use cases, but they're functional, high-level functional requirements. Okay, and then the fourth component are the communications between them, the connections. Another way to think about these is as the interfaces. And we'll try and, once we've done the down select, we'll try and do an exercise for each group to try and come up with your use case diagrams. Right, and sometimes when you start doodling, you realize, oh, I need something else in there. Right, so now we've decided that our secure message platform needs to be able to create accounts. So that adds another use case, another ellipse to the diagram. And that's just a labeling of the same as I did earlier of writing everything, right? We've got actors or roles, we've got a system boundary, we've got specific functions, and then I didn't label the connections between them, but they're the interfaces that allow us to communicate between the actors and the internal functions. So I thought I'd take a stab, and forgive me for misrepresenting anybody. I thought I'd take a stab at writing down one functional requirement for every project. Right. So for Bright's project, the MyBot shall be able to take pictures. I wasn't sure what to call it, so I was going to go with PyBot, and then I thought, oh, let's make it MyBot, right? And then Jacob had PC benchmarking thing, so the PC benchmark shall measure the performance of Microsoft Word. I don't know whether that's one thing he wants to do, but that's a way of, it's something that if you're benchmarking how a computer works, it's something maybe you want to know about. And then Michael, the Honeypot shall present itself as a vulnerable Windows Server machine. I don't know whether it will, but I didn't have enough detail when I wrote this, so I thought, well, let's see what it's going to do. And then Eric, the smart security system shall be installable on an existing home. Right? Maybe it's after today's presentation. Maybe the car is going to be the first focus, but the aim is to write down what it's going to do. And installability is maybe not a functional requirement, but it may be a cross-functional requirement. But write down something about what the system does. And then Michael Federick, so the solar drone shall take pictures while flying, right? We said that, but we need to actually state it explicitly in an unambiguous shall statement. And then Anthony, the security system shall have a medical alert option. I don't know whether it will, but that's an example of what a functional requirement for that system might be. And then Fahim's, the parking system shall show drivers the closest available parking space. I think that's true. It doesn't say anything about how it does it, and that's not the point yet. The how is probably more a cross-functional requirement. It's the what does it do is what the functional requirements are about. And then Kyle's, the traffic analyzer shall detect any anomalous traffic. I don't know whether that's what you want to do, and maybe that's a little different from what we heard today. But again, I was just trying to make up example functional requirements for everybody. And then Kyle Fields, the car analyzer shall understand the ODB2 protocol. That's pretty straightforward. So that's a fundamental thing that the Rally system will need to do. And then Michael Paloka, the smart fridge shall track fridge usage. And maybe we need to be a bit more specific about what we mean by fridge usage. I saw that and I thought maybe we need to track the number of times the fridge door opens and closes. Or maybe we need to track how much food is kept inside the fridge. But that's the sort of thing you need to be explicit about in your requirements. Has anybody got any questions about any of that? Okay. So now we can go on to cross-functional requirements. Oh, I forgot to change Jacob's into a... oh well, I missed one. So the MyBot shall store 1,000 pictures. I don't know whether that's the right number. I don't know whether it's going to store them or stream them, but that's an example of a cross-function, a performance requirement. For Jacobs, maybe the example would be the PC benchmark shall work on Windows. Right? The PC benchmark shall work on Linux. The PC benchmark shall work on macOS. Right? That's a cross-functional requirement. It impacts the whole system. And again, I'm making these up completely out of the blue. So the Honeypot shall use a 1000 base T network connection. Maybe it doesn't. The smart security system shall cost less than $200 to install. Having a budget or a cost target is imperative in a lot of systems. The solar drone shall be capable of flying for 20 minutes. The security system shall deliver alarms within 1 minute. Is that too short, too long? The parking system shall work on car parks with up to 1,000 cars. I don't know, is that too many? I don't know how big most car parks are. I suspect they're smaller than 1,000, except maybe at some of the larger airports. The traffic analyzer shall shall keep logs for 365 days. Maybe monitor and keep. The car analyzer shall work on all post-2000 vehicles. Right? I don't know when ODB2 became prevalent in most cars. And again, a cost one for the smart fridge. The smart fridge shall cost less than $100. Okay, so they're all examples of both functional and cross-functional requirements. And what I'm asking you to do between now and next week is to think about what shall statements your system is, given that now that you've done your pitch, that you've got a bit better idea of what you want to build. Now I want you to write it down in terms of clear, unambiguous, direct language. Okay, and that's due next week. I'd like to get it preferably well in time before the lecture, but that's okay. What I want to do next week is something. Let's see if I can find it. Is a first attempt at a KJ analysis, right? And let's have a look. Right, it's again using the Lucid Spark, and similar to what we did with the project relevance statements. But what we'll aim to do is put all of our shall statements into this system, one per sticky note, and then try and cluster them and see whether there's commonality across some of the projects. And I think you'll just based on what we've seen, there is, there's a network security theme, there's a home security theme, and I think there is some commonality across there. There's a robot theme. So I think but the aim is to try and find that commonality and stake out 3 or 4 different projects to move forward with. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Dead silence. I think that's good. If not, then maybe we should leave it there for today. Is that okay? Still tons.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah?
Okay. Good day, Professor.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Professor.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.